Here to shed some light on the story is Chief Eddie Gallagher's brother, Sean Gallagher. Sean, welcome to the show. Thanks very much.
I appreciate it, John. Thank you for having me.
Now, Sean, I admit my bias. Your brother to me is an American hero. And frankly, I think that your brother should be given a medal. Our special operators are out there to kill the enemy. This was an armed ISIS fighter in combat. Why is your family enduring this hell?
Well, it's a great question that we, from the beginning, never knew the answer to. Why in the world would the Navy and Navy lawyers and prosecutors ever take a case like this? And I want to state from the outset, one of the things that our family has learned in this process, and my brother, unfortunately, is on the crap end of, is that prosecutors, in this case, Navy lawyers who've never seen combat, who never shot downrange, never seen the likes of battle that my brother's had. He's been on 8 combat tours to Iraq and Afghanistan. They sit there and they Monday morning quarterback something that actually never even happened. And so what I want to state from the outset on this whole thing is that the premise is that my brother, a chief of platoon, in front of around 30 people, stabbed to death an already dying ISIS fighter. This incident never happened. There's mounds of video, eyewitness testimony, and picture evidence that clear, Eddie, that our lawyers have transcribed to us. And so from the beginning of this, we have said, the premise of this is absurd. Why is this even happening in the first place? And why in the world would the Navy actually take this line? So yeah, to answer your question is, why in the world is this happening? But unfortunately, my brother, and this should make a lot of your viewers and Americans around the world just incensed, is that Eddie has been for 4.5 months now behind bars awaiting trial. So what they do to you in the military is if they accuse you of something and they have no evidence, they can still throw you in jail where you await your day in court, where now it's February 19th as Eddie's going to face both his accusers in the Navy who have just made up a whole bunch of false accusations and finally get to the bottom of this.
Yeah, you know what bothered me is that one of the stories that's not getting out there is, number one, your brother's service record. Multiple commendations for good conduct, 14 years in the SEAL teams, nothing but exemplary peer and supervisor superior reviews, and they want us to believe that in this one fleeting moment of time, he did something so uncharacteristic. But what bothers me more, Sean, is that other members of SEAL teams, longtime SEALs with similar resumes to your brother, have said one of the allegations is he stabbed this ISIS fighter in the neck. And they're saying, no, the medic did what was essentially a tracheotomy. The medic cut the hole in the neck to try to create an airway for the guy, and that's being mistaken for Gallagher stabbing the guy in the neck. Now, to me, that sounds incredibly logical. Apparently, the medic is admitting to doing that. How did the narrative get so out of control?
Well, it's because it's a problem in search of a question, right? Where prosecutors want to do these types of things. One of the unfortunate tragedies that we're experiencing as a family, and Eddie is experiencing as this decorated war hero, is that there are other members who wear the same uniform as him, except for their battles and their achievements come in taking a scalp. Yeah. So what happens is that prosecutors make careers out of convictions. And so they look at something like this and they get a whiff of, ooh, maybe a Navy SEAL did something wrong in combat. I'm going to prosecute him for it. And so, the listeners should listen to exactly what you just said, which is precisely what happened in this event. It's an ISIS fighter who my brother and his platoon had been fighting for hours. It was a really immensely long firefight. Iraqi Special Forces shell a compound. A whole mess of ISIS fighters die because that's what they want. They were fighting U.S. and Iraqi forces. A whole mess of them die. Reports are up to 30 to 50 perish, except for one. And it's this dying ISIS fighter. They bring him into my brother's compound on a Humvee. Eddie is a medic, and he and another medic from his platoon treat this fighter, not out of the goodness of their hearts. They don't want to save him because they like him. They want to save him so that they can interrogate him to find valuable intelligence. Sure. The ISIS fighter dies. This is the scenario, and then suddenly, Eddie, a year after he gets back, is said, well, you killed the guy, which you shouldn't have done, which is insane at the outset when you're talking about a Navy SEAL who just literally was engaged in a firefight with the enemy. One of those enemies gets shelled. He's brought in. Eddie tries to save him, and he dies. Now Eddie is being charged with murder and facing a life sentence in prison without the possibility of parole. And so, you can imagine the outrage that our family feels. You can imagine just the sheer anger of a family, who, imagine being the brother of Eddie. When you see him come back from 8 deployments, he's missed innumerable Christmases and holidays and all this stuff. This, John, was his last one. This is his last deployment. He was going to spend the last year of his Navy SEAL career, his 15th year as a SEAL, his 20th year as a Navy individual, and then he was going to retire and finally spend time with his family. But right now, at the end of his just decorated and stellar career, they throw him in prison, they charge him with war crimes, of all things, and they threaten him with life in prison. We're gonna beat this. There's so much evidence on our side that it's insane that it would actually start in the first place.
Right.
But the thing is just what you said. They try to paint. Imagine being on the side and you realize that they can just spout accusations with no evidence. And so you're always playing defense. You're always saying, well, none of that happened. Well, that certainly didn't happen. Well, this doesn't make sense. And suddenly they're painting your brother, this amazing, humble warrior, as a villain so they can make themselves feel better. And that's the situation that we're facing as plain as day.
Yeah, Sean, I mean, look, I began my career in law enforcement. I watched paramedics do similar work on the street. Man, if they're going to be criminally charged for an emergency tracheotomy, the procedure was a little bit different. We'd be prosecuting a lot of good people. Well, look, our thoughts and prayers are with your family. Again, I look at this through a law enforcement lens. I can't find a thing that Chief Gallagher did wrong that day. I think the evidence is flimsy. I'm on team Eddie Gallagher here. I cannot believe we're doing this to an American hero who sacrificed so much for this nation. So please send my regards to your brother and your family. Sean Gallagher, brother of Special Warfare Operator, Navy SEAL Chief Eddie Gallagher. Sean, thanks very much for sharing the story and joining me.
I appreciate it. Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
You got it. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to see more breaking news coverage, exclusive interviews, and great videos, click over here to our YouTube channel and subscribe. And don't forget to download the free Newsmax TV app. Newsmax TV, it's real news for real people.